Hi folks, Joey Ricard with TracksideScenery.com. Welcome back. You know, there's a lot of commercially available scenery products out there, but sometimes they don't have exactly what you need. Sometimes that item may be too expensive, relatively speaking, of course, and sometimes you might just want to make it yourself. Well, oftentimes I find myself creating things for all of those reasons at the same time. So today I'm going to show you how I go about doing that, and we're going to do it on the cheap. Here's your basic supply list. You can pause the video if you need to, but really you're going to see all these different items shown throughout the video, and you can jot it down if you want. These are old methods, and I'm just putting my spin on it. Did you get that spin and I just spun the video? Oh, come on! Alright, we're going to start out with the basis of the project. Foam insulation, or EPS, which is extruded polystyrene. Not styrofoam now. We're talking about the pink or blue stuff you find in the insulation aisle of your favorite hardware store. For the sake of this video, we're going to do this in O scale. It'll make filming a little easier and I don't have to zoom in as much. I started by cutting a piece of foam to about 6 by 6 inches, and this will represent our generic stone abutment or pier. You mathematically inclined guys can do that scale conversion to find out how big this really would be in real life. And you can see how I'm going back between the soldering iron and the pencil just to kind of show you can really do it with anything with a point or a sharp edge. You know, I gotta tell you, I really love carving foam because it's very relaxing if you don't make any mistakes. But if you make a mistake, you're gonna get pissed off, and then it's not so relaxing. Nope, there are no rules in this game. You can do it however you want. More than anything, this step is like a primer and sealer, although you could just paint over the foam like it is. This is Mod Podge. Did I say that right? Mod Podge and black acrylic paint. No ratio, just a quick mix. Mod Podge is sort of thick, so it'll fill in some of those deep areas. Now, with that said, you want to keep in mind that if your scribe marks or carved areas are faint, they may get obscured with this and the other layers that are going to go over top of it. Something to think about for those modeling in smaller scales. For this one, I just happen to be using a mix of acrylic white and tan. Different base colors will give you a different look, so you really have to play around and experiment. Plus, it's fun. We're going to be applying a black wash, which you'll see in a little bit. This is what's going to change the colors, tones, and hues. Starting with a slightly tannish base, when washed over with black, will give you a slightly brownish or tan stone appearance. On the other hand, starting with a pure white base and adding black will give you, come on, a gray stone appearance. So this being the version with multicolor stones, we use a small variety of colors. This is where referencing a real-life photo can go a long way in giving you ideas. Now, don't be that guy that paints part of one block one color and the other part of the same block a different color. If you look at real photos, there are zillions of different stone colors and patterns. Here, we're just experimenting. At this point, your painted stone should be, almost dry. It's time to dry brush on some white to not only blend the transitions, but to add some highlights. Highlights meaning simulating a light source. Typically, light comes from above, so we'll pay attention to the tops of the stones by adding just a tad of dry brushed white. When I say dry brush, I mean just that, using a clean dry brush and dabbing some white on the brush and then stroking it on a towel or your hand until it's very faint. If you have too much white on your brush when you use those pull down strokes, it's going to look like somebody poured a can of paint on the top of the wall and it ran down. For this particular wash, we'll use a mix of black enamel paint and thinner, my standard go-to wash, although you can certainly use watered down acrylic black. So with this combination, after we wash it down, the stones left as white will produce a light gray, the stones that were painted gray will end up as a darker gray, and the various colored stones will produce dulled down versions of their original color. When we lay this down flat, the wash will settle in the seams and give it some depth and separation. Again, I'm dry brushing and I'm using a little bit of white and a little bit of gray. This will help blend everything in just a little bit. Okay, did you get all that? On to version 2. This is the one with gray stones only. The only thing I'm going to do different as far as prep work is I'm going to take this rough object and kind of create some rough areas on the stones, just so they're not flat and smooth. Now I could have sealed this one the same way I did the last one, but I used white acrylic in with the Mod Podge this time. Using gray as the base coat, when washed down, it'll produce a darkish gray appearance. We could have certainly painted it white and then washed it down, which would have produced a lighter gray appearance. Using the same technique as the other one, we're going to dry brush on some white highlights. Dry brush, don't forget dry brush. Now for some variety in this video, I'll use a wash mix of black acrylic paint and water, or in this case I had alcohol right in front of me, so I used that. And just remember, you're most likely going to be doing this over several coats depending on the thickness of your mixture. But the important thing to remember is let each coat dry completely so you know what it looks like when it's dry. It may look great when it's wet, but it may look completely different once it dries out a little bit, so you got to check on that. In the beginning of the video and at the end during the montage, you'll see 3 piers. The only difference in that third one on the far right is that I added some dry chalk over top of it when I was done. Be sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and share the hobby. This is Joey Ricard of TracksideScenery.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.